Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry it's been so long since I've produced anything. I was on a vacation of sorts, but I'm back now, and I'm ready to get back in the saddle. Today, we're going to look at Proverbs chapter 3, verses 1 through 12. And as a side note, I didn't take any notes today. I've only read this through once or twice, so I'm going in blind. Let's see how this works. I'll start by reading it all the way through, and then we'll take it verse by verse. In my Bible, this is titled, Trust in the Lord with All Your Heart, and it begins, My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them out on the tablet of your heart. So you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord, and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh, and refreshment to your bones. Honor the Lord with your health, and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled, your vats will be bursting with wine. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, or be wary of his reproof. For the Lord reproves him whom he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights. I like this passage. So, starting again with verse 1, which reads, My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. This is, relatively self-explanatory. He's saying, well, Solomon, the wisest man to have ever lived, is saying, you shouldn't forget what I'm telling you because it's important. And, as with most wisdom, or well, I suppose all wisdom, keeping it is going to add years to your life. You will avoid certain pitfalls that lead to stress or, I guess even literal death, both of which can take off years of your life. And it also says that they'll add peace, which is interesting because, well, most people think about peace, they think lack of war or lack of conflict, which makes sense. But how does, wise teaching lead to peace? Well, it's by teaching you to avoid situations which cause conflict. It doesn't include physical conflicts, though. It could be emotional conflicts, spiritual conflicts, or actual physical conflicts, any kind of disorder or unorderly event. Verses 3 and 4 kind of go together, so I guess I'll read them together. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart, so you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. So, Solomon is saying here, that of all things, we should keep steadfast love and faithfulness in our hearts. And in fact, we should bind them around our neck and write them on the tablet of our heart, which is fancy language for keeping it somewhere secure, somewhere that you will always be aware of them. And also, on the tablet of your heart, poking my heart here, somewhere deep inside you where they're protected. And he says that doing so will help you find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. One thing he doesn't say is what this steadfast love and faithfulness are supposed to be towards, which is interesting to note because, when most people think of, or well, when a lot of people think about love in the Bible, it could be anything. It could be love towards God. It could be love towards uh, your friends, your family. It could also be love towards your enemies. But rather, since he didn't mention a specific uh, target, I suppose, of your love and faithfulness in these verses, he means just love and faithfulness in general. So, you know, in, including all the things I mentioned before, it could also be love of life, love of just the world as it is. As I'm sitting in this square with fountains that aren't really on right now, but there's a lot of trees around, loving nature, loving the beauty that humans have created. It's a very nice looking building. Anything. Just appreciation for the world that we're in as we're in it right now. And as the world is right now. And as for faithfulness, this could refer to faithfulness in God, which would be the Christian interpretation of this verse. But to take it into less theological terms, you could imagine this as faith in the order of the universe. So faith in the rules that I mentioned in my last video, that the rules that tell you the ways that things should be. So and along with that, faith that following those rules will lead you to a more fulfilling life, a better existence, if you will. This requires faith, obviously, because, as we all know, unless this is Avengers Endgame, time travel doesn't really exist. So, you need to have faith that while performing the acts described by the order of the universe, that you are, in fact, actually going somewhere better than you would be if you had followed a different set of rules. So you can't go back in time to try something else. Following the rules of the, physical universe will surely bring favor in the rules themselves, which I'm substituting for God in this instance. And if you follow the rules which govern human interaction, then, what else could you have other than favor in the sight of man? Moving on to verse 5, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding." That's an important verse, so I'm going to take it all by itself. Of course, since the purpose of this channel is to kind of explain things in a non-theological way, I want to substitute Lord, which is a synonym for God, with the order of the universe. So trust in the order of the universe with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. So basically what Solomon is trying to say here is that human reason is prone to error. As science will attest, we've changed our interpretation of things over time, meaning that we were not right to begin with, and likely we still are not right about a great many things right now. So, what we should not do is then trust our own understanding, which is imperfect and oftentimes incomplete, but instead we should trust in the rules of the universe to guide us through life. And of course, as the verse says, Lord, I'm substituting rules of the universe. And so when we do that, as we do that, he continues to say, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. So, as I just said, if we acknowledge that there is an order to everything in the universe, and we attempt to follow that order, then, following order is literally going to make straight your path. It's going to metaphorically make straight your path. Because you're in harmony with the order that governs the universe, you can't go outside of the way the universe would be meant to be. If the order is saying to go like this, but you try to go like that, you're obviously bumping into something that you're going to run into some problems. All right. And 7, he says, be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. So he's more or less, he's saying, trust not what you think is wise, but what Solomon is here saying that he is wisdom, because this is, while I'm taking a non-Christian approach to this, I suppose, this is still the Lord's book, and so anything in it is supposed to be truth. And so he's saying, trust not what you think is wisdom, but what the Bible is telling you is wisdom. And in this case, Solomon, the wisest man to have ever lived, is telling us. And further, he says, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. In the Bible, a lot of times when they talk about fear and God, or the Lord in this case, they mean a mixture of deep respect and awe. And oftentimes that is awe to the point of literal fear. But, if you could be convinced that something more powerful than anything else in the universe actually existed and had the power to destroy you utterly, that would be kind of inspiring of fear. Just, in my own opinion. But as the Lord here is the order that governs the universe, he's telling us to be afraid of the rules, basically. He's telling us to be afraid of the damage that not following the rules could cause. And he wants us to turn away from evil, which is the last bit of verse 7, which is more or less just turning away from disorder, things that are cross-grain to the order of the universe and the way things are meant to be. And he says that if you do this, it will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. That seems pretty self-explanatory. If you follow the rules, you feel good. If you don't follow the rules, you feel bad. In verse 9, he says, honor the Lord with your wealth and with your first fruits of all your produce. Verse 10, then your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will be bursting with wine. This is a little difficult to take out of a Christian context because, unless you actually believe in God, there's no real purpose to making a sacrifice, which is what he's saying by honor the Lord with your wealth and the first fruits of all your produce. He's saying sacrifice the first yields of your produce to God to honor him for establishing order in the universe so that you could be alive and have discovered the process of making the fruits that you have yielded. But this I will admit, this verse loses a little bit of meaning when you try to translate it into non-theological terms. But basically, the gist of the message here would be to honor the order of the universe to the point that you're willing to give up, you know, the first yield of your crop, which is, I suppose, to farmers, the best, because it's the first. It's like having your first son or your first daughter. You know, it's the first, which automatically gives it inherent value. And in return for honoring the order of the universe, God said, Solomon says, your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. More or less, he's saying that to take this a bit literally, I suppose, if you honor the rules of the universe which govern the farming and harvesting of crops, then it's going to work out for you. You're going to have bountiful crops, and also, I guess if you're growing grapes as well, then your vats will be bursting with wine. Lastly, we've got verse 11, and 12, which say, my son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, or be wary of his reproof. For the Lord reproves him who he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights. Now, give me just a moment. If you're like me, I have the habit of not looking up words when I read them. So I just now looked up reproof, and it is an expression of disapproval or disappointment. So he's saying, do not despise the Lord's discipline, or be wary of his expressions of disapproval, because he would only be disapproving of you if he loved you. In the way, as he says, as a father, the son in whom he delights. So, what he's saying is, in non-theological terms, is don't dislike the fact that the order of the universe makes you have to act in a certain way, and do not be tired of the universe telling you that you're doing things wrong, because the universe would only tell you something that you're doing wrong if it wanted you to do something right. And most people wish people that they care about to do the right thing. That seems pretty normal to me. And furthermore, as Solomon says, as a father, the son in whom he delights. This could easily be a daughter as well, but especially in biblical times, first sons were usually the object of their father's greatest delights, because they are the heir to the father's wealth. To summarize everything that I've talked about so far, he's saying, don't forget wisdom, because it will add years to your life, literally. He's saying, love and be faithful, both love for everything, but particularly the order of the universe, and faithful that being faithful to the order of the universe will lead you to goodness. He's saying trust in the order of the universe, because it will lead you to where you're meant to be, or down the path that you're meant to go down. And he's saying honor the order of the universe, follow it so that you can gain its rewards, and don't despise that the universe makes you have to act in a certain way, because it's in your best interest, just as a father's direction is always in the interest of his son. Well, thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate your time, and if you enjoyed today's content, Please leave a like and a comment and subscribe to my channel so that you can always be up to date on my latest videos. Kernel's in, Kernel's out.